Lucky is one of the most broken feats in D&D 5e. At first glance, it doesn't seem so bad. You can reroll 3 d20 rolls a day, either your own attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, or an enemy's attack roll against you. But the feat is actually more egregious than that because of one line in its description. You choose which of the d20s is used for the attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Rules as written, confirmed by Jeremy Crawford and codified in the Sage Advice Compendium, this means that if you have disadvantage on the original roll, a lucky reroll transforms it into triple advantage, super advantage, or whatever you want to call it. For example, say you have disadvantage on an attack roll, and you roll a 20 and a 3. By using a luck point to reroll, you automatically land a critical hit. You don't even have to roll the luck die. The fact that you get to choose which of the d20s is used means that you can pick from among all 3 dice you end up with. And obviously you're going to pick the 20. This leads to a crazy situation where you actually want disadvantage, since it's actually triple advantage if you have lucky. Roll 3 dice and pick the highest. So of course, players being players will say, well, I throw Sanimize before attacking to blind myself and get disadvantage, counting on their luck to turn this stupid tactic into the optimal way to play. Just one instance of this is enough for any sensible DM to say, no, that's dumb, stop that. And in fairness, Jeremy Crawford did clarify that he personally wouldn't rule it this way, even if it was his job to clarify that that's how it's meant to be played, rules as written. But he did this in a podcast from 2016, and it's not codified anywhere else. I had to dig around blogs to even find the quote, and then dig around more to find the podcast episode and its location within that episode. Here it is.
This is where we get into the difference between rules as written and rules as intended. Really, the way I run this feat at my table is typically I have advantage or disadvantage kick in on the original roll, then have the lucky feat applied. So the way I would typically run it is the person rolls the d20 and let's say they have disadvantage. So they'd roll the second d20. Then they take the lower of those 2 dice. Then they spend their luck point, they roll a d20, and they choose which of those 2 to use. So they're still getting to do exactly what the feat said, which is pick which one to use, but they're picking after disadvantage has been applied to the original roll.
So that's the rules as intended way to run Lucky. To make it super clear, because I was still a bit confused when I listened to that, let's take an example. Say you have disadvantage and roll a 15 and a 5. Your roll result is now a 5. At that point, you use Lucky to roll a new d20. You get to choose between the result of your lucky die and the 5. The 15 from your initial disadvantage roll is not an option for you to use. How much of a difference does this make to how powerful the feat is? Well, luckily, get it? ThinkDM did the math so I don't have to. Shout out to ThinkDM and their awesome D&D blog. If you need between a 5 and a 15 on a roll to succeed and have disadvantage, running it rules as intended, as in you roll a luck die and choose between it and the lowest of your initial rolls, increases your odds of success by between 27 and 38%, with the biggest boost to success rate at a 9 or 10 roll required to succeed. On the other hand, if you need between a 5 and 15 on a roll to succeed and run lucky rules as written, as in broken triple advantage, the feat boosts your odds of success to between 35 and 63%, with the biggest improvements to your success rate at a 12 required to succeed. Overall, the average difference across all rolls is around 17%, with the difference becoming more pronounced at mid to higher roll requirements for success. So what do I think? Does running this rules as intended the way that JC runs it at his table make it feel balanced? Yeah, definitely. It certainly makes it less stupid, where disadvantage is actively sought out as a source of mega advantage. Do I think Lucky is fun if you run it like this? Not really. I mean, using luck for attack rolls, the thing you're most likely to have control over having disadvantage on, just drop prone before attacking and you're all good, is pretty stupid. To be frank, this whole conversation is a bit silly. Why waste luck points on attack rolls unless you're a crit fishing paladin or rogue? Anything above tier 1, the most important d20 rolls you'll make are saving throws, especially mental saving throws that can completely take your character out of a fight. Sure, you could restrain yourself to get disadvantage on dexterity saving throws and therefore super advantage using raw lucky rolls before a dragon breath comes out, but nobody's actually going to do that. And so the difference between rules as written and rules as intended isn't actually a thing for Lucky's most useful use, passing do or die mental saves. The second most useful use of Lucky, making sure you don't fail on counterspell, and to a much lesser degree dispel magic, ability checks against spells of higher levels. Again, the only consistent ways to give yourself disadvantage, and therefore super advantage running Lucky raw, is to be exhausted, poisoned, or frightened. So being a bit sleepy and lucky makes you better at counterspelling and dispelling magic, rules as written. But again, I don't think anyone's really going to commit to this bit without their DM telling them to knock it off or outright banning the cheese. Plus, it's my contention that counterspell should be banned anyway, but that's a discussion for a different video. So without cheese and accepting the rules as intended version of the feat, where disadvantage doesn't equal super advantage, is lucky okay? Well, sure, yeah, it's fine. It's not going to break your game to allow a player to reroll 3 d20s a day. It's more broken the fewer encounters you have between long rests. With 2 or 3 combat encounters a day, Lucky will feel a lot stronger than a day with 5 encounters or more. But my biggest gripe isn't that Lucky is overpowered. It's how friggin' boring it is. No matter what your character build is, what your role-playing concept, or whatever, Lucky is good. It undercuts the joy of getting inspiration because the feat is basically 3 instances of built-in inspiration per day, only better because you can wait to fail to use it. It reduces tension in big do-or-die moments. Basically, Lucky is a generally powerful feat that's much better than a number of feats that actually specialize a character in interesting ways. Storytime. I DM for a group of non-optimizers. People who have no idea who Jeremy Crawford is, spend no time on D&D Reddit, and have never heard of the Marshall Caster Divide. God bless their souls. But in the very first campaign I ran for them, one player got the Lucky feat at level 4. Everyone else saw them turn successes into failures a few times a session, became jealous, and got it at level 8. One even realized the triple advantage cheese by accident, but luckily they never went out of their way to abuse it and just accepted it as an odd quirk of the feat. Did I ban it? Nah, it's fine. My players didn't want to do math and figure out the optimal feat from the 70 plus feats that exist in 5e. They're not metagamers or optimizers, and I'm not about to go out of my way to make them think that way about D&D. If they like a straightforward and powerful feat, that's fine by me. But it did make me a bit sad that all their characters felt samey, what with the equivalent luck-boosting powers. Yawn. It's cheesy, it's boring, it does nothing to make your character feel special or unique. It's just a straightforward way to avoid failing a few times a session. I mean, a reroll isn't always successful, but even working half the time is something. So does 1 D&D fix Lucky? Not really. It removes the stupid triple advantage thing by just straight up giving you advantage on a d20 roll, or disadvantage on an enemy's incoming attack roll, but I've already gone on record saying that that's not my biggest problem with Lucky, since most DMs will shut that cheese down the first time a player actively abuses it. 1 D&D's fix does nothing to make it more interesting. It's still good, arguably better, since it now scales with proficiency bonuses, so more uses per day from levels 9 and up, just about when most players would be getting their first feat anyway. Yawn. So yeah, feel free to playtest these changes or create your own homebrew for how Lucky works, like getting to add a d6 to 3 failed d20 rolls a day or something. Or you can just ban the feat outright and call it a day, along with Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter while you're at it. Just kidding, they're the only thing that makes Marshall's damage halfway competitive in 5e, so probably best to just leave those alone. But do ban Silvery Barbs. That spell is dumber than Lucky by a mile. But enough of my opinions and math. Let me know what you guys think of the Lucky feat in the comments below. Do you run it rules as written and allow players to abuse disadvantage as a perk? Do you prefer the rules as intended version? Do you think the feat is stupidly overpowered and worthy of a ban no matter how it's run? Or is it just fine and think there's too much quibbling over this silly little feat? In any case, if you found this guide on Lucky helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more like this in the future. It's a massive help for small YouTubers like me. This is D&D Lounge wishing you all the luck in your next D&D session.